All right, welcome back, and we're on to our final lecture of our circular logic building blocks. Functions. We've already called functions in the previous example, so now let's actually learn what they are. So, functions are a block of code that can be used repeatedly. They are very similar to a function in math, where they take in parameters and output a result. Functions in programming don't need to take a parameter, and they don't even have to return a result back. You could call a function and it might do something, and it just runs, and you don't get back anything from it, and you don't feed it anything. That's fine. But typically, when one is writing functions, they typically either take something in or return something back out. So they're used to avoid rewriting the same chunk of code over and over. It's really nice to, if you need to do the same task several times throughout your program, you only write it once and you just call that function. They might perform a specific task, or they could modify something. So they're declared with the def keyword. So def my function, the parentheses need to be there, the semicolon need to be there, and then the code is just the block of code. So return is a keyword in functions, and it tells your function it's returning something. Sorry. So let's think about the mathematical function y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. So y would be the value that is returned, and the parameters for our function are m, x, and b. So we have below here a function def y equals mx plus b, and it returns m times x plus b, essentially what our mathematical function is doing. So we'll go ahead, run that, and we're good to go, and we'll call it later on. We'll show how to call them. Functions can return things, but they don't need to return values. So we also have ymxb print. This doesn't return anything this time. It just prints out the same result. It's just kind of comes down to what you need that function to do, what you're trying to get out of it. I know y equals mx plus b is a very simplistic approach. We'll kind of get more into it. So in the above case, nothing is returned. We print out, as I said. The return type of a function is the type of the value that is returned. So for our cases, it's an integer value for y equals mx plus b. The avoid function doesn't have a return value, so our second one doesn't return anything, so it's void. Python doesn't need you to say what the return type of a function is, and you could maybe have a function that doesn't always return something. Any code you have after the return, so I'll put up here, we're going to say tab print, hi there. So one thing I need to bring up for you guys, and I haven't done it yet, so I apologize. Python is white space dependent, so you can see after my function declaration, there's a tab character here. So anything that's tabbed in is part of the function declaration. If it's not or the code block, if it's not properly tabbed, Python will throw a fit at you. Just so you know. The Jupyter Notebooks takes care of a lot of it for you, and if you're ever confused, just reach out and I'll be happy to help. But the distraction, so we'll add that in there. How do we call a function? There are two primary ways to do it. The dot operator, a period, is one way to use it, or just by calling the function name. Dot operators are used to call member functions of an object. We'll touch on this. I'm sure you guys are tired of me saying this a little more later. So for example, if you have a variable myString, like we do down below dot opper, it calls the member function of the string class upper, which makes your string an uppercase. Using a function's name is done for non-member functions. I apologize for the typos. For example, to call our y equals mx plus b, we would just do y equals mx plus b, and because it takes parameters, we have to pass parameters. 10, 5, and 4 is an example, or whatever you want them to be. So as you guys can see, myString.upper calls the upper function and creates or moves Danny from all lowercase to uppercase. Whereas with our function we wrote, we don't have to have the dot operator or apply it to anything. We just have the y mx plus b function, and we're going to pass 7, 13, and 15. And Jupyter Notebooks automatically prints out the return value for us. That's part of the reason why it's super cool. We get the same result with 30 or calling the print one here. But what if we remember to actually define our function? Excuse me. Didn't rerun that block code. So let's make this a little more how it actually would be. So y is equal to y mx plus b, and then we come here and then we just print y. And as I was talking about spacing earlier, these are in the same code block. They have to be on the same lines. Perfect. And if you don't believe me that it's really doing this, y is that, and here, and shift enter. Y is 36. There we go. That's just the basic functions. We'll the remaining couple lectures really do a lot of function calling, so you'll get better examples of how it all works together.